1, 2, 3.
Are you a corrupt politician? Or am I being redundant?
Well, she sneaks around the world from Maryland to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filter from Berlin down to Belize. She'll take you for a ride on the boat to China. Tell me where in the world is there's only South Korea, making honey cook triangle from the Red Sea to Greenland. Will they singing the blues? Or will they never Arkansas still? The beat come from a jungle. Tell me where in the world is we go from Nashville to Norway, but air to Zimbabwe, Chicago to Czechoslovakia and back. Well, she'll ransack Pakistan and Pakistan and Scandinavia, then just stick 'em up down under and go big pocket bourbon. She was Memphis and misdemeanor when she stole the beans from Levi. Tell me where in the world is tell me where in the world. Come on, tell me where can she be? Botswana to Thailand, Milan via Amsterdam, Bali to Bali, Ohio. Oh, whoa, ooh, the cheese. Ooh, the cheese.
Let's talk about how we met. We discussed this briefly prior to recording. Let's hear your story. They hear my voice too much.
Sure. Let's see. Well, I first arrived at the same college as Nate in the fall of 2007. I moved back to the Burlington area in the summer of 2007, and
we can say it's Burlington College. I mean, it's pretty public information on the internet.
Sure, look it up. Or not. Anyway.
Your pick.
But yeah, I arrived at Burlington College in the fall of 2007, and I really didn't know anyone. You know, it had been quite a while since I had been in the area, so I didn't know anyone at the school. I saw Nate and our next guest, Mr. Casey Khoury, sort of around here and there. Didn't really talk to anyone. Had actually made it a point to avoid socializing for the most part because my goal was to be a serious student, ladies and gentlemen. Did not work.
As Carlin says, it's all bullshit and it's bad for you.
Yes and yes. So anyway, it was the spring of 2008 when I actually took a class with Nate, Hollywood and Its Alternatives, which was a class about
on disaster of Hollywood. Yes.
Yes, exactly. And that was one of the requirements that I take a class about
cinema.
About cinema or film, and I chose that one just by happenstance, and Nate and I were sitting in the same proximity for the entire class, and we had some interesting discussions during the class, which
wound us up in trouble.
Yeah, kind of upset the instructor, but you know what?
Heidi Berkowitz, who you'll hear about on a different one of these.
No comment.
That's
what she said.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's basically how we met, and of course we talked during class and after and before, and kind of evolved from there.
How did we all meet?
A place called.
I thought you were going to start singing somewhere over the rainbow. What the hell happened?
Second star of the
Maybe
rain,
it was
straight on to morning. It was in Neverland.
It's red glare.
Let's not mention rockets.
Especially red ones.
The purple head of Cairo. Let's keep going here.
Oh.
As opposed to the purple rose of Cairo.
Let's. All right. Well, let's see. I've already discussed how Nate and I.
We already dissected how we met. How did you and I meet? Let's start there. Do you remember?
I met Nathan, I believe that was my second year at BC. And it was, trying to think here.
Don't hurt yourself.
We don't have to be exact on the dates. I mean,
Right.
I'm not sure. Well, yeah, I mean, you know.
I'll tell you where I remember meeting you was at the school building, new student orientation.
Oh, yes, that's right. I did make a habit of welcoming in new students.
Did you scare any off?
Yeah, but we'll never hear from them again. Don't forget, you have to remember this was back in the days when it was the style to wear skirts over pants.
Oh, all right.
And apparently bandanas was the end thing at that point as well. Then it became French berets as well.
Anyhow, so that's how I met Nathan. During orientation, he was in orientation and I was welcoming new students. And then Michael, if I'm not mistaken, I think that was in the computer lab. I never really had any classes with you, so...
Was I ranting and raving about something? Probably.
Yes, yeah.
What was
Don't ask
it?
so many questions. You know
I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was on the line of politics. It was on the line of politics.
Okay, so I went on one of these rants, and you overheard the rant, and you responded, or I don't know. Yeah, my recollection when I met you, Casey, at school is foggy. I don't know. It may have been around the time that that Nate and I had a class together.
I think it was because I was hanging out with Casey. I think I come into the computer lab to print something or other that I needed to print, and I think it was for or fucker what's his class there. and Casey was with me, and I think you were ranting about politics, and I think Casey overheard something that he disagreed with, and that started the beginning of the end of the debates.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was probably around that time. So we're talking like spring of 2008. So, yeah, that sounds about right. Anyway, after the class, I think it was probably upon arrival back after the summer period, probably the fall of 2008, that Nate brought up the idea of doing a live show to benefit LD Worldwide. Learning Disabilities Worldwide. And I thought, hey, I'm about as untalented as you're going to find.
You and I were
together. So, I wasn't entirely sure exactly what I was going to do for the show, but then Nate provided a very detailed kind of blueprint for how things should work.
The fact that we had that guy in the booth kind of hindered it, but we did what we could.
Yeah, exactly. No, the show was a lot of fun. A lot of memorable moments in the show that maybe Nate has shared with you before. Maybe he hasn't, but maybe he will.
Not yet. If you want, I can share those now, or we can save that for the Shooting the Shit episode.
Yeah, we'll save that for Shooting the Shit because there was a lot of shit going on.
Okay.
And this is rated, R for after hours because the dialogue may be a little crude. Would you agree?
I would say that this is a PG-13 that we're playing with right now by current standards of the MPAA board, but don't worry, we will get R-rated for the next few. So stay with us. Stay tuned.
Fair enough. So, let's see, probably fast forward to, oh boy, how far ahead are we going to fast forward here?
I think we jumped to spring 09, I think it was.
Was that,
That's when I approached you about the television show.
Oh, yeah. The ill-fated TV show.
Which you'll also hear about later on, so stay with us.
In theory and in concept, a great idea. It was a public access show about the college, presenting ideas and work of the students at the college. Free promotional material, by the way.
Especially for those who didn't get that on the 12 memos that went out.
Yes. Free promotion of the college, showing off, by the way, some very talented individuals, I might add, who were attending the college, artists, and actually went through one season without a hitch under the leadership of Alan Nichols. Yeah, who
assistant director to Robert Altman, also worked on music for his movies, and is still an actor every now and again in something.
A very talented individual. What the heck was he doing there? Anyway.
Slumming, apparently.
Anyway. So there was one completed season with some very interesting guests.
Artists.
You
can see them on this channel, YouTube.
Yes, exactly. Artists, photographers, poets. Again, very artistic, very talented individuals. So the idea was to continue that in a second season, this time without Mr. Nichols, who was off in Southeast Asia at that point.
Mr. Kane,
that joke will probably make its way into the last segment.
That's what she said.
But anyway, it was an opportunity to continue the show. And Nate approached me and said, "Hey, would you like to be, co-producer?"
An occasional host.
And I said, "Yeah, absolutely."
We had several misadventures.
Yeah, I was involved in a car accident, so that canceled the first week. Yeah, it started off rocky, and it ended rocky.
Anyway.
So we had this very good concept. Now, we did have some difficulty in tracking down guests for season 2. We had a lot of flaky individuals who agreed to film and then couldn't find the time and then cut out, and so that part was chaotic. But in reality, what we ended up with was a finished product in the filming of 4 episodes?
Let's see, we had 2 with the Director of Student Services, Sarah Mel. We had 1 with you as a guest, 1 with me as a guest, 1 with our soon-to-be-talked-about friend as a guest, 1 with a gent named Dylan Podiak.
So that's
6.
That's 6 by my count.
Yeah, and then I believe we had planned 1 with an audience, but that never came to fruition for various reasons.
Yes, exactly. So we had 6 completed episodes, and basically the format was this. We'd have a host, either yourself or myself, and we'd interview the individuals who appeared about what they were doing at the school and about certain topics that they were interested in, and
Other than women or men.
and you know, there was a lot of comedy. There was some dancing, some
where I actually hyperextended my knee, no less.
no, this was physical comedy.
We all worked on the ill-fated BCP, better known as Burlington College Presents, which Mike and I introduced in the last episode as being an idea of students displaying their work to help promote the college, and them. And it was free promotional material, but no nuts that didn't. So anyway,
originally spearheaded by Alan Nichols.
Right.
Yes, we mentioned that.
Yeah. And we alluded to the fact that it was canceled, which it was unjustly, which leads into several civil rights violations for the three of us. That's a whole other podcast in and of itself, which you'll hear on another one, so don't want to go too much into that, other than to say we all have diagnosed learning disabilities, and that's how it becomes civil rights violations for the three of us. If everybody feels comfortable, would be willing to share what those disabilities are, and then we'll share our memories of working on that show.
Yeah, I mean, when I was younger, I was certainly diagnosed with ADD, but
you've been able to.
Yeah, I would say that although certainly concentrating on things is still difficult, I have what I call the curse of 1,000 thoughts, which is typically it's hard for me to focus on anything because. Even as we speak right now, I'm thinking about multiple things at once, so it's hard to focus. But yeah, I think I've done fairly well, despite the fact that I was diagnosed young and treated when I was younger. And yeah, I'm sure if I went to any sort of observation at this point, they didn't have ADHD at that point, or they hadn't created a term for it. Maybe.
So you think you might fit into ADHD now?
I think it's certainly possible. Yeah.
Okay. As I have stated on other podcasts, and during that lecture, I have NOD, nonverbal learning disability. And that leaves you, sir. How about you?
Well, my learning disability is there's the nonverbal part of it. I mean, it's a nonverbal learning disability on the extremely too long spectrum of autism known as Asperger's. That's mine. It's more on the higher end and the lower, and we won't get to the lower.
Yeah, and nobody's bothered to try to break that list down into their own sections yet, although they really should. But each disability has their own spectrum, oddly enough.
That's true.
So that leads into memories of the canceled or ill-fated program.
Yeah.
Now, Mike and I had said that we had done a show called Burlington College Presents, and we had it, pretty well under control for what we could do. We had done 6 episodes. To be specific, we had 2 with the Director of Student Services, Sarah Email. We had one with Dylan Podiak. I was a guest for one with Mike hosting. Casey was a guest with Mike co-hosting, and I was a co-host / guest on that. And the other one was you, Mike, with me hosting, and then there was yeah, so that was what we had done.
Mm-hmm.
And we had one other person sign up, so we could have done that one.
Right.
But we were unjustly canceled, which gets into civil rights violations. Now, prior to that, we had done a season, we being Alan Nichols and myself, had done a season's worth, which were 3 episodes.
Yeah.
The first season, and it was Ashley the Rose, photography, the short films of Anthony Green, film student, obviously. And he dated the head of the film department's daughter, for the record. And there was another one with Mac Finley and Mary Vitta called simply Poetry, because they were both poets for the purposes of that, although Mary also got into audio mixing and painting, which she was extremely talented at.
Yes.
And she also had a beautiful singing voice, which I hope to God she gets over her fear of singing in public, because she'd be really good at it. So that said, that was the first season. Pretty much all my memories of it are in the show, except in the episodes themselves, except to say that prior to taping those 3 episodes back to back in one day, I had laryngitis. And so I had just recovered from laryngitis like the day before we went to go record those. And then when we went to go record, my eyes gave out during the first episode, so the entire first episode I couldn't see anything. So I was hosting blind, so if you saw me looking long and hard at notes, which you probably did if you sat through the episodes, that's why. So I'll joke about it now, but it scared the hell out of me at the time. But anyway, that was that, and then the only other thing that I remember is when I looked up and I went to go ask Ashley the Rose the first question, my mind went blank, and that's why you see me stumble a lot through that interview. And I'm cracking jokes I wouldn't otherwise be cracking, other than the fact that, like, I was at a loss for anything else to say that was intelligent. And I'll readily admit that. I'm probably one of the few, but I'll readily admit it. So those are my memories of season 1. Season 2, Mike, I remember going and saying to you, I need to find a replacement for Alan Nichols. Would you be interested? And you said, of course. But it depends on what it entails and stuff. So I said, well, come on, let's go take a trip to Alan's office and chit-chat about it. And do you remember what happened there?
Well, I remember Alan being all for the idea of passing the baton, as it were. So he was strongly in favor of keeping the show going, even without his supervision. So the idea is that Alan, again, who has a long list of working in high-profile productions, was in full support of the program, even as he was planning to leave. So we had the support of someone who had the experience and the knowledge of the program and knew exactly how it should operate. So I was fairly confident that if we had Alan's signature, that was going to be good enough.
Right. Well, I mean, to be fair, I had gone prior to that, when he was saying that he wanted to turn the reins over, and right before I said, well, let me go find Mike, I had gone to Barry Snyder, the head of the film department, who you'll hear more about in other podcasts, and same thing with Art Hessler, better known as Hess for shorthand. And you'll hear why on other ones. And I'm sure you'll come to the same conclusion that I did. So I had gone to them and the Director of Student Services, Sarah Mell, and my advisor, and I had said, this is what's going on. Are we all okay with this? And they had all signed off on it. So they reneged later on. But anyway, that's getting ahead of the story. So I had gone to them and said, well, is this okay? And they said, yeah. And then I gone to you, and we've gone in, and Alan, they said, was all gung-ho about it. So he signed off on it, and I got from there.
Yeah, and I think we discussed earlier, one of the more difficult things was tracking down guests who would actually be able to show up when we needed them to show up. Part of my job, I think, his co-producer, was to try to acquire or try to round up some folks who might be interested. And it was very difficult because I actually had a few who said yes, I'd be interested in doing it, but I can't do it now. I can put it off till later.
And then that later never came, or they bullshit their way out of it later.
Right.
Yeah, the reality was that if given enough time, I think that we could have maybe convinced somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 students total, counting the few that we did have. I
remember that,
I think that the program certainly had the potential to have a long lifespan. It was just a matter of, at the beginning, just getting a few guests.
Right.
And I thought,
I remember you doing that, and, and I helped you somehow with that. The thing that I, of the process that I found, I'd say a little frustrating. I mean, not too much, but just the fact that I kept, I would find people that would be interested, but then I had found myself over and over again explaining the whole premise of it. And
well, yeah, because people are incredulous, and it's like you can hand them a slip of paper and say, these are the websites, go check it out. But there's only so much that's going to do because they have to be willing to do that, and the majority of people are just freaking lazy.
It's true. It's true. In fact, I would think the majority of the folks I talked to were non-committal because there was nothing really in it for them, although I kept pitching the idea, hey, this is a chance to show off what you've been working on. Yeah. This is a chance to create something that would be great for your resume. Look, I have this on video that shows my movies. For example, when Dylan Pudiak came on the program, he brought some films, and you edited the material into the interview, and quite frankly, the finished product, or almost finished product, was excellent. It was a great piece showing off what Dylan had created. It would have been an excellent resume item, but again, kind of getting ahead. The trouble was at first was tracking down guests.
Yeah. That's right.
The actual studio experience when we did get to RETN. Working with it was Jim
Mohanger.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I thought Jim was pretty open to the idea of us being there, and we didn't take it overly serious. And he had one studio assistant
who was there for two of the episodes.
And she did a great job framing. She was actually the producer of a really good documentary that she gave me a copy of. Don't ask me the title.
I won't. I would ask you though if you run into her again before you leave, can you get her name and contact info, because we could probably try to reconnect with her at some point if you're back up here and try to do another TV stint.
Sure. Yeah. I still have a copy of the DVD, and her name is as executive producer is on there. Really good about the peak oil. Yeah, exactly. But anyway, the studio experience was fun. There are a lot of lighthearted moments, like the old whiteboard writing information and hurling it. Maybe Nate can kind of tell that story, but
yeah, pretty much what happened with that was we'd had the techie, I call her, in the studio, and she'd written something because we had just done the dance sequence that you see in Losing Control, and we had done the dance sequence, and I had gone and hyperextended my knee, so I was in a great deal of pain and stuff, and she wrote on the whiteboard, Nate is the Lord of the Dance. Smiley face. So I had said, give me that, and she went, no, and erased it as I walked off camera to go grab it, so all you're hearing is the audio of me yelling, give me that. Which, now that I think about it, sounded horribly wrong.
It works so well.
And Sarah Mel decided, because she was the guest, that she was going to try to hijack the show at that point. And then I went back on with the whiteboard, rewrote the stuff, held it up for people to see. And then I believe it was, she did zoom in so we could see what I was holding up. And then on the cut out to the wider shot, I went and threw the whiteboard off the screen at her.
Well, not at her, but in her general direction.
Right, that's true. She was standing behind a camera and chucked it over to the side where she had just been standing.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was close enough. So,
she got the message.
Yeah. In the wrong way.
So yeah, no. There were a lot of lighthearted moments. We brought Jim on to interview him. He was very nervous, did not want to appear on the screen, apparently.
He was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Who's directing this? I'm like, relax.
Being in there directing. And of course, RETN does maybe 1, 2, I don't think they're doing any now, but from time to time they do 1 or 2 stuff in the studio, so it's not really a whole lot, and he winds up directing them, versus VCAM that has a lot of stuff in the studio and has a number of directors.
It dominates it, so really if we were going to go back, we would have to go back to probably
VCAM.
Yeah.
Right. Sure. The studio experience was great. I thought we had a lot of really good material and some that could definitely be tossed. And
I did most of that in editing.
Yeah, exactly. But in the end, we weren't able to air any of the 6 episodes.
And here's why. We got called into, well, I'll start with you. You got called into a meeting with who? And go from there.
I think the initial meeting may have been with Barry
Snyder, yeah.
And he was just, he was inquiring as to what exactly we were doing with the show and how it came to pass that I was kind of filling Alan's role and who made that decision. I kind of explained the basic details that Alan kind of passed the baton. And, even though the concept of the show was well known to everyone who had paid attention to the previous season, season 1, I still had to kind of explain what was going on there.
Which is odd because that guy signed off on it in the first place.
And explain what was going on in season 2. And the meeting ended. And I remember I talked to Nate that day, and I said I was being rather vague because I didn't want to sound too concerned. But I remember saying, Nate, we may have a problem. And I didn't, and you were like, well, you were asking, well, what exactly was said? And I said, maybe you should wait till you talk to someone.
Right. Well, you had said go find Barry post haste, and I had said to you, what exactly was said, and you said, well, I can't really get into specifics, but it's about Burlington College Presents. And I said, what did you say? Because I need to know going into that. And you said, well, here's a small portion of what I said, trying to give me general terms. And I said, don't assume that these guys are on your side because I'm connected to the show. They're going to screw us over. And sure enough, but that's getting into the story once again. So at that point, I think I talked to you, Casey, and you and I are going to be editing the thing. And we'd set up a few edit times and whatnot. So we were continuing to go ahead with that stuff while we were waiting because Barry was very unresponsive for a week and a half. And then he finally got around to meeting with me. And he had asked me similar questions to, I guess, what he had said to you. And I had said pretty much the same thing that I assumed that you had said. And I said, I cleared it with him. I cleared it with Art and stuff beforehand, so there shouldn't have been a problem. And they said, well, we need you to suspend activity on it. I said, well, we don't have anything else planned right now. We're editing what we have. And they said, well, we need you to suspend all activity. I said, well, it doesn't make any sense for me to stop editing stuff because this stuff can potentially get wrapped up. Well, you guys figure out whatever the issue is that's inside your heads because we don't have an issue with it.
And I never really thought,
And then that was when you and I had to go into a meeting.
I think there was a point prior to the meeting that you and I went to collectively where some of the footage was requested to be reviewed. I think we later found out that no one ever watched the footage that we provided. We provided a disc, I believe it was of Dylan, maybe, or kind of a rough cut of Dylan's episode, and we found out later that no one ever watched it.
Well, that was more...
Even though it was only after all, or as a rough cut, what would you estimate? 40 minutes, no one ended up watching it. So...
well, that was at the point when they were hadn't fully been canceled. They were more or less saying that they wanted a staff member, film faculty person to look at stuff, and basically probably also hinting at, although the school never really said that they have a rule about having to have a staff member or film faculty person being the producer as well.
Well, no, they did later say that, but that's the story. So at that point, they had at least established that they felt that we needed oversight because we were not capable of doing this ourselves, which is number one, insulting to begin with, but number two, it was also a bullshit reason to get us in to can us, which I believe wholeheartedly that this was a setup of sorts, and I'm saying that purely on a speculative manner. I have no way that I can prove that, but circumstances would be hard-pressed to prove otherwise. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I would say that the fear, it was an irrational fear that something was going to be said on the program that was going to negatively impact the college.
Right.
When in reality, and we continue to make this point over and over again, including in the second meeting, that if you watch the footage, you will not see anything that shines or points a negative light on the school. It does not exist. It's not in the footage, not in the rough footage, certainly not in the edited footage. There's nothing there, but no one was willing to go to that step and actually watch what we had filmed.
Right.
It was assuming that we had said something inflammatory because I think it was directed at us as students in particular. The assumption was that something inflammatory would be said or had been said, with zero proof.
Well, it was also made because at the time, somebody from my support system outside the school had just threatened the school with legal action about violating my civil rights. So they just furthered that argument by continuing to do it via canceling the show unjustly and without cause and without proper investigation into what they were making accusations about. But that said, the accusations that were made, again, as Mike just said, were false. I myself recognize that I have my legal issues with the school, but I also recognize that manner to be professional on that show and not say anything that slammed the school in any way, shape, or form. So I would carefully dance around the areas where I felt like I wanted to haul off and say something.
Yeah, in fact, I remember we never had a script, but we had a list of some questions to ask, and we intentionally avoided any questions that maybe appeared on the question sheet before the show, and eliminated kind of the ones that may have been in a gray area related to the school. So we were really careful. We did a better editing job of our own material than anyone on the staff could have. But again, there was this irrational fear that something would be said or had been said. But no one bothered to follow through and actually look at what we had produced.
That's right.
So there was no facts. Again, irrational fear, not irrational fear.
Right.
Exactly. So bottom line is that there was this irrational fear that something had been said would be said, when in reality there was nothing slanderous at all.
And since slander is the wrong term entirely, it's
well, no verbal attacks at all.
So there was nothing libelous.
Nothing libelous.
The legal dictionary.
Yeah, nothing libelous on there. And if they looked at that, they would have realized there was nothing libelous.
Exactly. And in the end, I think the worst part about the episode, which the whole Burlington College Presents episode, not an individual episode, the whole episode involving us and Burlington College Presents, is that it was such a great forum with a lot of potential, again, to benefit the school and the students.
And it could have been used as promotional material for the school besides, if they had taken the time to watch the damn show instead of deciding to insensibly argue that they were right without a shred of evidence.
Yeah, so I guess kind of to wrap it up, what happened in the end was that they put the show on a, quote, permanent hiatus and said that it could, well, they called it temporary and said that it could be brought back, but in reality they had no plans to assign a staff member to do the work that they wanted, which was to provide oversight. No staff member would step up, so not only was it on this temporary hiatus, there was no chance of it coming back, so it was permanent.
Well, let's say what that thing was that they were looking for, so that they understand why that nobody wanted to do it, and that's that they were looking for round the clock working on it like what we were doing. Like when we weren't doing homework stuff, we were meeting, and even if we weren't talking directly about the show, it would inevitably come up in passing at some point during the conversation. But a lot of that was just kind of like gleaming ideas from things that we were talking about and stuff, and that's where I would go and write up questions or write up ideas about, who to get for things. And I would go and do that, and then I'd go back, check with Mike, and say, what about this, what about that, or whatever. And I thought those were kind of fun.
Yes.
But then the school said, well, the college, said that they wanted somebody looking at our notes, all of our notes. They wanted, even the ones we threw away, they wanted people writing a script with us, which they couldn't comprehend that a show would possibly go on air without a script. They were insistent that somebody has to be there as a staff member watching the show being taped to make sure that we don't say anything. Well, what's the difference? It's not going to make it in the tape if we did. In the tape that would go on air. I know enough to do judicial cutting in that regard. Yes, I'm spiteful now, but at the time, even as spiteful as I wasn't stupid. Again, professionalism, you don't do that. So the point of that combined with the other 3 points just kind of made it that damn impossible that somebody would want to give up that much time, plus then having to sit with us while we edit everything to make sure that we don't leave anything in of this non-existent fear that would then non-existently make it on air.
Yes.
So, this was just a lovely setup for fail. And as Mike said, they said, well, it's a temporary hiatus and you can get it back. Maybe. We have to review stuff. And that's where we wound up in a meeting, and without giving away all the details, because I don't think we need to bore them to death with the details.
No.
It was a 3 or 4 bullet point redundancy on, and go watch the footage. Well, we don't have time. Tell us what the footage is. Go watch the footage.
Right.
And the other 2 points were that we needed the oversight, which I just stated with the under bullet points of that, and the fact that we needed to halt anything that we were doing currently on it at that point. And then it became, you need 20 signatures to get this thing back. And we got, 35, 40 collectively?
Yeah, Casey
Get the most of it. So step up to the plate, sir.
Exactly.
Okay.
You got more signatures than Nate and I combined. What was your secret?
What was my secret?
Lying.
No.
What did you do? Give them candy?
No.
Oh, so what, I don't want to know what else you had.
No, I simply just, found people.
Wait, you didn't offer them spaghetti dinners, did you?
No, I just found.
Oh, good, because I want to call you a
people.
prostitute.
I found people. Explained, why I was looking for their signature, and using and just and being as persuasive as possible. I mean, I had to delve back into my public speaking skills and through explanation and some persuasiveness, but more explanation.
Whatever you did worked, because we had the signatures that they needed and then some. I don't remember it. I think the final days of the program were. It was after they set up these impossible requirements that could not be fulfilled. I think maybe the 3 of us met and decided that it just was not going to happen, and it wasn't worth our time anymore to. If
Well, I mean, we tried to do it as much as getting the signatures, and then it was, uh, they then said to us, well, you need more signatures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I said, that's horseshit. You just told me that I needed 20 signatures to get it going. And they said, well, all those people have to be willing to appear on the show. I said, that wasn't part of the original agreement either.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're not sticking to to what you said. You're bullshitting me. Don't do that. And that's when Sarah Mill said to me, it's over, it's dead. I said, fine, I need two things from you. One, I need you to write the truth to Jim Ollinger in an email, and I'll alert him that there's one coming from you saying exactly why we're not going to be able to put anything on air. But I need you to tell the truth in it. Mm-hmm. That means you're not playing the numbers game, which is what you just tried to do. You're not going to do any, sweetening of the facts. Just say it as it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right.
And that's all I asked of her.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And she didn't even fucking follow through on that.
Yeah.
She went and she sent him a sweetened version of it and played the numbers game. Which was horseshit.
Right.
So I called her the carpet on it, as did Casey.
Mm-hmm.
And I got flack for it, including being told that I could not utilize the Director of Student Services office ever again for anything. Which is one of the biggest discriminations that they did. Mm-hmm. And that's about as far as I'm going to get into that, because it's better talked in another podcast. But so that was our hellish experience on Burlington College Presents.
And then we said, well, it's not worth it. With Burlington College Presents, we had to my recollection, although it was short-lived, we had a idea of coming up with something completely different.
It shifted after Burlington College Presents. I think, I'm not sure if I was told or if Nate was told that just about anything we did would have to be viewed, even if we were doing it outside the college. If we were putting anything on RETN, which is public access, which is open to every member of the community, we were told anything that we came up with, be it a sitcom or a variety show or a talk show that was not related to the college, would still have to be monitored.
Mm-hmm. And that was from our legal dictionary, Hess.
Yeah, so and
for the record, we call him the legal dictionary because he botched legal terms in that second meeting. Even I, having, I'll say this, and this may make it onto the podcast, having taken many law courses both at the college and at the University of Cincinnati, knew exactly when a botched legal term was used, and especially in a demonstrative way, to make a point. When you use the wrong term, you kind of lose the point. And your credibility.
And your credibility, exactly.
Right.
Which is kind of what happened to Hess.
Not to mention, it's ridiculous in the first place to say that they're going to have to look at something even though it's not related to the school, even though the school's not mentioned at all. It's something that's
Well, then there's that, but not only that, but at the same time as they were telling me that, they were trying to get me to use all the footage that was shot to put it on air under a different title, even though I was told that anything that was done with that footage or any other footage that I would have on TV would have to go through that. And it's like, that's horseshit. Like, you have no legal grounds to stand on for that. And I said that to Hess because, he's not going to believe it until somebody calls him on the bullshit. We had gone to the Church Street Tavern to get a lunch during the production of Burlington College Presents, the TV show that was canceled several times, and so it became kind of our standard place to go every now and again. And during one such outing, the president of the college, Jane O'Meara Sanders, who you'll hear about in later podcasts, and later on in this one perhaps, and others in this series, was doing some things that not everybody agreed with, especially myself, and I believe you at that point.
Yes, that would be correct.
So our friend Casey was defending her on some undefendable points, or so we thought. So when the bill came around, pick it up from there, what happened?
All right. Well, the funny thing about our stops at the tavern were that it seemed impossible for them to divide the bill amongst the three of us with any accuracy at all. So we all...
Cash, credit cards, whatever.
Yeah, it became a real ordeal because for some reason it was just too difficult for them to comprehend.
It was a bigger production number than anything you'll see in Mamma Mia or Mel Brooks's The Inquisition.
It's very, very, very true. Well, what happened was that
we had cash. You and I were paying cash. And our friend who just walked in, and we'll introduce him momentarily on the next podcast. But we did do the cash and card.
Okay,
and
so two cash.
Yeah, two cash, one card. And there was a lovely little mishap where we said, okay, here's a 20 in cash, and I think it was like a $5, $10 deficit for whatever the reason. And so the woman came back and said, whoever's paying cash is a little short. Do you want me to just put the rest on the card? Now, the bill was approximately $100. It was slightly under, but for the sake of an argument, let's round up.
Sure.
$5.
Sure.
So, you want to take it from there?
There was a large remaining amount that was owed, and the waitress came over and asked, do you want me to put the remainder of what's owed on this card? Nate and I looked at each other.
Yeah. Actually what had happened was we looked at each other, and Mike, goes, what do you want to do, Nate? And I looked at it because we were the ones paying cash, and Casey said, I'll pick up the tax, the tip this time. We said, okay. So we just looked at it, and the woman said, what do you want to do? So I said, yeah, it's about right, go ahead. Which, for some reason or another, just struck you in a funny way. It sent you over the...
that's about right.
Yeah. It sent you over the deep end there, like you were about ready to fall over laughing. And you even, I think, said at that point, I don't mean to laugh, Casey, because Casey was talking. Sorry, by the way, that we're talking about you behind your back while you're here.
Hello there, sir.
Top of the morning.
Beer?
Yeah. I'll finish up this story, and then we'll get him a beer and get situated. So, the young lady had said, what do you want to do? And I said, yeah, it's about right. It sent you over the edge. And you said, well, I don't mean to laugh, but Nate just said the best line in the history of paying bills knowing it was incorrect. It just sent us all into a bit of hysterics. And it was almost worth it to see the expression on your face, too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was... and if anyone is wondering why we find this humorous, if we haven't explained it well, it was because it was about wrong. It could not have been more wrong.
It was horribly off. But, yeah, those are the things that make the best stories.
They do. Yeah, if we had all paid an equal share and just walked out and went about our business, we'd have nothing to share here.
Yeah. We did a few, shall we say, disabled shows, one of which was the LD show. So I guess, do we want to spout off about that? Who remembers what? I mean, I go into something else on one of the other, or a few of the other podcasts about them. So I shouldn't really be talking, so you guys...
Sure. Well, I appeared in the show as a performer, lip synced a song.
Every Street's a Boulevard.
Yeah, delivered a few lines of dialogue, one of which I botched horribly in the rehearsal. Something about a hairy English ass. And although we should have had that recorded, the rehearsal was, at least for me, funnier, and I delivered better material in the rehearsal. Mm-hmm. But anyway, for the most part, I was behind the scenes, behind the curtain during the show, trying to direct the motley crew of actors who were back there to get out at the right time. Sometimes they'd step out before they were called, and they didn't...
Khoury,
they didn't seem to understand anything about timing. So, but I had a good time. It was fun for me. But then again, I wasn't in the audience.
Ooh, ouch. As the guy that wrote and directed, how dare you?
Oh, what do you remember, Casey? Dutch tilt.
No, that's the third item on this bullet point.
No, I remember, a few of the skits. I remember the songs. I remember going back to the beginning, of course. I remember Nathan being introduced and coming out into the audience, shaking hands and stuff like that, He didn't attempt any of those things where he'd actually sit down next to someone, but...
Yeah, the one I would have sat down next to, I wanted to throw into the oncoming traffic.
And what else did you do at the show, though? You weren't just an audience member. You had
I was
a role,
filming it.
Right? Yeah.
And then he went back on stage and did his opening shtick.
Shtick, yeah.
Shtick.
And he had a few, there's a number of funny skits he did at a college one.
Junior Goes to College.
Junior Goes to College with Dylan Pudiak as the dean. And
What's my line? What's my line?
Dylan had a great one-liner during the thing, and you can see it on the tape because it is on the internet, so...
and then there's some musical acts, and of course our friend George Boland did the surrounding music.
Yes, absolutely. Tremendous.
And the intro trumpet, yeah.
Yeah, I think he played the trombone for most of the evening, but
yeah.
Outstanding.
And he was excellent, and I wish him luck with his endeavors as far as continuing success with the...
Yeah, he does play music on Sundays at the in Williston at the Monkey... No, not the Tavern... something Tavern.
The Monkey Tavern.
Monkey Tavern.
I just made that up.
right before.
It's not Monkey Tavern, but it's no, it's
A man and his monkey.
There's a monkey involved.
And he's not playing the trombone.
Get your hands off me, damn dirty ape.
That's what she said.
Monty's Tavern. It's Monty's Tavern in Williston. He plays there on Sundays. The rest of the people that accompany him are different from week to week. He's the only fixture there. And I've been a couple times, and it's been quite good.
I'm sure it is. I should explain to sure erratic laugh. Mike just said very quietly, to the best that he could, "Hey, get your hands off me, you damn dirty ape." When we're talking about the wrong names for the tavern. And I said, that's what she said.
Yeah, so that's Sundays.
And this is the result.
The correct name is Monty's Brick Tavern in Williston.
There's no monkey.
No.
Oh, all right.
Remember, no spanking. Back to that R rating.
Yeah. What do we have to do to get NC-17? I don't think I want to know.
Drop your pants, fire a rocket.
Oh.
Little Rickos. After I don't want to say Little Rickos, I'm happy enough to say the old one.
Big Rickles is enough for me.
Yeah. Well, anything Rickles is enough for me. I don't want to know about the girth.
Oh. Oh, Lord.
Or as he calls it, spider.
Oh, wow.
Now I've exposed his dirty little secret. That's what she said. Or did. So we go way off base. So yes, Roland plays at what tavern was it again?
That's Monty's Brick Tavern in Williston.
Right on. So that was the LD show.
Monday through Friday at 5. She flies around the globe and jumping from every nation. She's a double-dealing diva with a taste for flavoring. Her itinerary's loaded with moving violations. Tell me where in the world is tell me where in the world is where in the world is. Tell me where in the world is the white jack should be. Watch your back!
Are you a corrupt politician? Or am I being redundant?